Om Shanti. So, welcome all of you to just a moment. I can hear the Hindi because I think I'm in the wrong room. So, welcome all of you to the Values Workshop today, number 56 on solitude. And before we begin, it's a beautiful month for all of us, as we have discussed in the past. Beautiful day and a beautiful number for the workshop. In Hindi, we call 56, 56, an auspicious figure. 56 bhog is different, 56 types of delicacies. You can see a kite in the background, which is the marker of today's festival here in India. We may call it the beginning of the harvest. Makar Sankranti in Hindi, in English it means Sankranti is something to do with transformation. And a kite signifies my elevated flying stage. And as all of us know, from this day onwards, all over the world, the days start becoming longer and brighter. So let me, from this workshop today on solitude, strive to spend more and more hours in solitude, trying to elevate my stage and take me towards the ultimate effort to achieve the maximum result in my effort. And also let's try to look at a different perspective of solitude, because otherwise this value seems to a bit tough to practice for beginners. But I must say spirituality starts with having love for solitude, enjoying the company of the self. And when I say self, I mean to say the true self that I am, the spirit that I am. So with these beautiful multiple things happening on this day of 14 Jan, let's begin our workshop. So as always, we have our team of facilitators, Sister Anu and Sister Shruti. Welcome both of you. And our dear, untiring translators or interpreters, I must say as well. So welcome all of you. So let us just quickly go into the action mode. As I said, 56 number is a very auspicious figure. There you go. And it's 2023, the first workshop after cooperation. As you can see something on the screen, I'll play the icebreaker video for you all. We have almost 60 participants now. So it's quite a good number to start. So again, I would request that there are 60 people now. Please interact either on the chat box or with oral sharings, preferably in the first exercise in the chat box, because we may not be able to take so many sharings. So just see what this girl has to tell us from this video.
When I left for college, everyone told me the same thing, that the next 4 years of my life would be the best 4 years of my life. There would be parties, tons of friends, and it'd be amazing. Once I got to campus, however, things seemed to go differently. My dorm was actually a suite shared with 6 other people in a hallway with 50. This was a big change from having a bedroom to myself. Between lectures, group projects, date nights, and even the dining commons, my people quota was constantly filled. I was never alone. Everything and everywhere was constant noise, and I didn't get any solitude. I learned quickly that having time to myself was a privilege I took for granted. By day, my head was constantly filled with voices, judgments, opinions, and comparisons that would simply just amp up my anxiety. With school clubs and making friends, and doing all the social activities I thought I had to do to fit in, I became tired. My mental capacity for school was drained. I was able to pick up my grades near the end, but only at the cost of increased anxiety, stress, and fatigue. I knew I was losing myself. Being an ambivert meant I needed a balance of social time and me time. So I took a calendar out and scheduled some me time to regain that balance. Child development researcher and author Kenneth H. Rubin acknowledges that solitude is an important tool to bring balance into one's life. It needs to be in healthy doses, however. It works when one has a social group and can regulate their own emotions. With this, solitude can be a time to achieve creativity and peace. So I set out to find a place where I could be alone. Study spots, secret nooks and crannies. While I did get comfortable doing things alone, I ended up just feeling alone in the crowd. I needed true solitude. I needed to be completely alone, in person and through my phone. I needed to be alone. According to psychologist and Professor Peter Sudfield, having time alone is valuable for those with anxiety as it protects from overstimulation. In this world of constant access to social media, we have shortcuts in communication. Because of these ready-made interactions online, we're losing our chance to be truly alone. I finally put the phone away, free to think for myself, free from judgments and opinions which weren't mine. I was finally becoming grounded. No more overstimulation, and no more people who would make my anxiety worse in trying to calm me down. Constantly asking if my anxiety has stopped being a thing. The constant pressure of being watched made my anxiety worse, but telling them that would only make them more persistent in trying to make me feel okay. But when I was completely alone, there was no pressure. I cried, panicked, screamed if I had to. Didn't need other people's stories and opinions. In that moment, I could just be me and express the way I needed to. By finding that I could finally find peace of mind.
Well, welcome back. So you can share your insights, what you gained from this video about solitude. Just let me look at the chat box. I can still just see Om Shantis. Yeah, okay. So one of them is saying, Manisha Ben and Hridaya Ben are saying that this video clearly states the yearning to be alone for the child, and the soul is craving to be with self, to be grounded, and also peace of mind in being the self. Perfect. Right. A beautiful way to get the advantages of solitude, which we'll be going in more detail. So thank you. Anyone else would want to share your thoughts through the chat box? We have limited time because the video was a bit long. Yes. Sister Denise, I can relate to this and love when I get time for myself, right? So I'm sure as spiritual seekers, all of you feel that we need this me time. The soul wants to be alone and be focused. Yes, fantastic. Right. A few more sharings we'll appreciate, and then we'll move on. Sister Jayanti actually said something else as well, which I'll be sharing, that we really don't need to get cut off from the people, but this activity was all about the person who was hyper anxious. And she was just, and I think she was dependent more on this media, social media. So it's really good to be a little bit away from them. Yes, Sister Rena is saying about today's slogan in the Murli class that to stabilize your mind and intellect in one powerful stage is to be in solitude. Sister Geeta, everyone needs to be alone. Yes, Lata, sister, I think the soul solitude is craving for actual and true peace. Yes, very true. She needs solitude, not loneliness. So yes, though she's alone, but she's not lonely. She's practicing solitude and she's loving it. Deepak Bhai, being away from phone and laptop and social media is the greatest joy to get into solitude. Yes, so wonderful, almost 10, 11 sharings. Thank you so much for all your sharings. And since we are many people now, almost 75, I'll just take the last two sharings. Sister Andy, sister or brother, I don't know, smartphone is now considered relaxation. Okay. Soul wants to establish in the swar that is self. The more and more I move away from the hustle and bustle of the busy life, it makes sense. The soul finds self, peace and solitude in being the soul, and the dharma is peace. Wonderful. Solitude means perfect time with self. Thanks, Sister Meenu. Again, Geeta, sister, everyone needs to have alone time to understand oneself. Very true. And I'll take the last sharing. Ashok Bhai is saying soul needs to go for deep silence and you need solitude for that. Right. So thank you so much. And sorry for the delay of 2 minutes. Over to Sister Anu for the first activity. Thanks.
Thank you, Manoj brother. Om Shanti, everyone.
Right. Sorry.
Can you hear me? My bandwidth may be low, so let's see.
Should I share the screen for you?
Yes, please. Yeah, your brother. So that was really very good thoughts. I mean, you all are already reflecting about what is solitude and the need of it in our life. So this first exercise will be exploring further actually that what is solitude and what is that stops us or keeps us away from it. So hindrances for practicing solitude. The reflection question is reflect on a time in the past until now before today when you were trying to practice solitude but you were not successful. So we know, as all of you shared, how it feels and the need of solitude, but did we try to practice the solitude, but we couldn't? Let's reflect on that. And then as you can catch a few points that what are the things which interfere in practicing solitude. So we will discuss that. We'll take your sharing afterwards. Let's take 1 minute to reflect on this. I already see points on the chat, but we would like to take the sharing verbally. So hope you all could think and got a few points that is coming in your way. Okay, Manisha sister, you can speak.
Om Shanti, for me, in everyday work, we talk about any mundane activity that you're doing, trying to focus on maybe one aspect of work. Let's talk about work or anything that we do, a task. So everyday task, something, oh, I have to prepare my child for school, I have to do other things. So these are the kind of thoughts, sometimes they come and interfere. And we are looking for that one moment that I can give myself to just freeze, sit by myself, remember Baba, for instance. And it doesn't happen sometimes. So you know that, you're out of that, the lifestyle of being a soul. It's somewhere you're attracted to either, body consciousness, or your, the subtle um, um, vibes of other people. It's the atmosphere, it's the people around you, something that has taken away that one moment of silence from you, and you're unable to focus. So for me, that comes in a few times.
Yeah, beautiful sharing. I think most of us will relate with that. Thank you so much, Sister Manisha. So as Ashok brother said on the chart, that too many thoughts, but that's what not holding on to, like not able to hold on to that moment of silence or what I'm doing at the moment, but flowing with the situation around. Very nice. You said, remember God, like focusing on who I am. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sister Manisha. Anyone else who is inspired to share their points? You can unmute and speak. Anyone?
Good morning, everyone. I can remember a day when I had specifically set aside to be in solitude and do some spiritual study. And because I'd been so busy up to that point, I think it's similar to what Manisha was, sister was saying there. And I was overwhelmed. I got into overwhelm of which direction to go. Instead of using my power to discern, I became overwhelmed and I couldn't do anything. So, yeah, that I just remember that one time, and it's not always like that, but yeah.
That's a good point. So it makes you overwhelmed. All of us forget about solitude. We are far from that, and the power to discern or the confusion comes over. Power to discern goes away. So that's kind of the benefit of solitude, or why we seek solitude. Yeah, there is so much more as we learn at Brahma Kumaris, that while in actions, while speaking, we can feel that solitude or being connected with the self. But I think by end of the session, can have a grasp of that. Thank you so much, Sister Denise. Manjit's sister on the chart says that constant disturbances, questions, or ideas streaming in or out, that's a hindrance point. Yeah, solitude. Kiran says, too many demands from family members. Either they need something physically or they constantly need emotional support. It's the same thing as Kiran says, that the demand, we put it that as demand, but yeah, people around us, our relationships, they need emotional support, and that could be the hindrances that should take us away from our solitude. Maybe let's, Lata, Sister Lata, you would like to speak?
Om Shanti, good morning. I was able to feel that instantly when we practice solitude, we are not able to put full stop to our thoughts. So that is one thing. And sometimes when we practice solitude, which is out of compulsion, that, okay, now I'm done and I want to be alone, then we really, the thoughts keep hovering over our mind, and we go in the like overwhelming situation, same as Sister Denise mentioned. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Yeah, putting a full stop, very important and big art. Thank you so much, Sister Lata. Yes. Maybe Hridya would like to speak. That's why, again, the hand is raised. And Manisha?
Shanti. I was doing my meditation and I could not focus. And I started saying words of Swaman. I am God's child, a master almighty. And I kept a Murli in front and I learned a lot of different points from it and it helped me.
Wow, amazing. How old are you, Hridya? Can you tell us, please?
10. I'm 10 years old.
Okay, so 10 years old, Hridya. Very nice. While doing homework, how the attention went away. So Soman at Brahma Kumari is that the elevated thoughts for the self. So who you think you are. So it depends on that to bring back the solitude. Thank you so much. Very wonderful sharing, Vidya. Thank you. Brother Silan, you would like to share? We can't hear you. I don't see you either.
Sorry. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Right. So what I was saying that is that I find that at times I get so involved and so busy in running around doing things, and I know at the back of my mind that I need that solitude. But and the moment I sit down to have that kind of solitude, my mind is still spinning, and I'm unable to hold on to that kind of thinking because I've been overthinking. It's very much what everybody is saying. And that is what I find as being an interference, because that's more like action consciousness, and just being busy, and our thoughts just flowing all the time. So yeah, and I find that is where I find difficulty. And yet, if I pause here and there during the day, then okay, Om
Sorry,
Shanti.
no, very nice. Thank you, brother. Yeah, being busy and the flow of thoughts that doesn't stop continuously, but maybe bringing the thoughts to focus to elevated thought about the self and the work that we need to do at that moment would help. Thank you. I know there are a lot of people who would like to share, but I think, yeah, we have maybe 2-3 minutes more. Maybe Lara, you would like to share? You were unmuted. I know there are many people. Ekansh, is it Ekansh? Ekanshi. Yeah, we can take maybe, I don't know, 3 more minutes for the session, for this exercise. Okay, Meenu sister, you can share, please.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Shanti. Sometimes when I am physically and mentally tired or overexerted by my outer work, and that is the distraction to get me settled in my solitude. And firstly, I have to get myself light physically and mentally. It always helps to get me enjoy my solitude time. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So taking care of body as well as mind and feeling light. Thank you. I'll take a few from the chart. Shobha says that trying to do rather than be. So trying to do then being, doing then being is the hindrance, distraction from the solitude, rushing to squeeze too many things. Yeah. Balvinder says that extreme fear of going inside, anxiety, lack of understanding. Why do I need to go inside? So yeah, we need to understand, like you need to know and want it. And that is where solitude, the first step begins. So if I don't understand, then there will be fear and anxiety. That's why I need to go inside. And that is knowing myself as soul, wandering of monkey mind in many directions. So I think that is what most of us said. Deepak says that too much work pressure takes away from solitude. Yeah, too much work pressure. Sushmita Joshi says that planning for future, even if small daily works, my routine work disturbs me. Planning for future, yeah. No, we cannot think much for the future. Ekanshi says that I can relate to this as it happened to me in college, where I was in college where I was in fear of missing out, and that constantly kept me away. So any fear or the future that keeps the stress. Yeah, a lot of sharings. Yeah, so we have to wind up now so that we can move on to deeper into the exercises. So Deepak Bhai, if you can share. Deepak Bhai is taking all the sharings. Thank you. That's a picture. Yeah, too many thoughts. That's what most of us felt as from all of our sharings, overwhelmed due to lack of power to discern, due to confusions, constant disturbances, questions or ideas, streaming out and in and out, and trying to just do, finish work, but not taking a moment to see who is doing it, being, and rushing to squeeze in too many things, and extreme fear of future, worries of future, or planning for the future, and too much work pressure. These are few of the hindrances for practicing solitude. Okay, so for the next proceedings, I will hand it over to Brother Manoj. Yeah, there are many other few points. Being busy with elevated flow of thoughts brings in solitude. Reading Murli points, affirmations, elevated affirmations for the self, positive affirmations can help. Being busy with elevated flow of thoughts. Okay, thank you so much. Everybody will receive these sharings in our review materials that will send later. Thank you. Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you so much, all of you. Now I would request for the next few minutes, please don't think about the hindrances. This was just a little bit of teaser to know what is preventing me from practicing solitude. So there'll be many answers, I know, because we always have many excuses. I'm not trying to say you're like giving excuses, but that's the way it is. So we just have to find out time for solitude if we want to heal ourselves and get that me time. So let's try to practice that before we slip into the last action planning activity with Sister Shruti. So I would request all of you all to just be yourself, just follow a guided commentary, a few thoughts which I'll be giving you. Sit back, relax, take a deep breath in and out. And tell yourself, I'm so fortunate today to find out this me time for self. And I'm in the same boat as all others are. All of us on this beautiful journey, trying to practice a very difficult value. And let me not keep saying it difficult again and again. Trying to practice this solitude. So let me reflect on this question. What is true solitude? It is not being alone. It is not being aloof from other people. As we are taught here in our spiritual lessons, it is to go into the depths of the One and the remembrance of the only One Supreme. How can I do that? Let me take a few steps towards that. First of all, consider yourself to be this conscient, beautiful being of light, energy. It is what we call the true soul conscious state. And once I'm able to situate myself in this consciousness, just maybe for a few minutes, it is only then can I connect to the Supreme Being. Who is the ocean of all that I need. All virtues, all powers. In getting connected to that divine Supreme Being, I really don't feel the need to ask or yearn for anything. I am fully content. I am full with all His wealth of virtues and powers. I am such a fortunate soul because now I know the way to connect with that supreme energy and enjoy my solitude with the Supreme Being. So with these few thoughts, I think now there is no margin left for me to have any excuses that I can't practice, because it is not about taking out separate me time or getting away from people. It is a process which can happen inside, despite being in a crowded atmosphere as well. Well, so let's go into the action planning mode, and over to Sister Shruti. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Manoj. So, the importance of solitude, I think, has been well established with everything that we have been discussing and even the video that we saw. Yet, if there's one thing that did come true in all our discussion in the video, in all of our chat sharings, was in today's times, solitude or developing solitude is as much a deliberate act. We do need to make an extra effort to create time for our own solitude. And to some extent, it's also a skill that needs to be practiced, or an art form that needs to be practiced. So what we will do in this portion of the workshop is to think of ways on how you can inculcate solitude into your routine. This is a personal reflection. What may work for you may not work for somebody else. So really take a moment to really think about what is it in your busy routine, or what is it in your busy life that you can do to create or continue to add more time for you to practice solitude. So I'll play light music for about a minute just to kind of give us that moment to think, and then we'll come back for our sharings. So if you're ready, we can start taking some sharings, learn from each other. Would anybody like to get us started? Sure, please go ahead, Anisha and Hridaya.
Om Shanti. For me, like you said, sister, the solitude is a very, very rare commodity. So what I do is I spend a lot of time in my office. So I created an aura in the office, a light like this behind, and we play music every an hour or so and just go in, no matter what is happening. And this practice is inculcated with whoever is there. They can also get a sense of that because, as you said, it's an inculcation, it's an acquisition over the years that you're going to practice and come to meet the self and be with you, because that time is just for me, myself, and that's it. And I think that small activities lead to the bigger practices. So that's what I am doing continuously. Thank
Very
you.
nice. So physical and a subtle thing. So the physical is the light and just that pause in the middle every hour, like you said. And then, of course, taking the time for yourself. Very nice. Anybody else? Anybody else like to share? Yes, please go ahead. Ashok, Ashok Bhai, please go ahead. Did we lose you? Did we lose you, Ashok Bhai? Okay.
Yes,
But
we
I
can't seem to see him. Yeah, he's lost.
yeah, I think we lost him. Would anybody else like to share? Yes, go ahead, Seelan Bhai. I see you unmuted.
Yes, I have the realization always that I know when it is time for me to slow down. You know that there's something missing. You know that the most visible or feeling that you get is the stress that you feel being engaged so much in the world. And I have this awareness that I'm constantly living in two worlds. There's the inner world and the outer world. And when the outer world becomes the most important and activity becomes such, then I know that it's out of balance, out of kilter. So fortunately, in Raj Yoga we have the power to withdraw and the power to disengage from the world. And there's that need that you need to find out what is it that is really missing in my life at this moment that I am feeling uncomfortable. I just have this feeling that I'm uncomfortable. So, and the only way to do that is to connect with the Supreme Being and help him, and he will help us to find what is missing, to find what is it that I need to do. And that's what I've been doing, being so busy running around doing things. And there's that moment that you realize that, time to understand, to reflect, to find out what is going on, especially what is missing in my life at that moment. Because I feel that we need to be able to control the outside and not the outside controlling me. And that's what I have always tried to work with. And that's helped me to find that moment and that peace and that silence. Looking at that picture of that yogi really reminded me of how beautiful that feeling is, to be out there and to actually be in that environment of beauty, of nature and birds and so on. So that helps me to focus on my solitude also.
Very nice. I think 2 or 3 points there. One, being aware and acknowledging that there is a world inside and outside, and being able to listen to when your body is saying it's time to withdraw, knowing the practice of having to withdraw and connect to something bigger than yourself, perhaps the Supreme, and then remembering how beautiful it is to be sometimes out in the nature. So I got about 3 or 4 points. See a few more. Yes, go ahead, Vijay Bhai. I see your hand is up.
Om Shanti, and my dear brothers and sisters, please accept greetings of love, peace and happiness, and many congratulations on Makar Sankranti. It's a very fortunate day when we are having a session on a very fortunate topic, solitude. It is a regular practice. It is not something that you do solitude on one day and you do after 1 week, after a month. No. We must know what is the meaning of solitude is that love with the Supreme. When you have a love with the Supreme, everything becomes easy. मोहब्बत में सब कुछ आसान है और अगर love नहीं है, स्नेह नहीं है, तो everything is hard. So first we have to develop a habit of sitting with mind and intellect with a powerful stage, stable in one yad, ekant. Solitude in Hindi is ekant, ekant. We must develop this habit in Amrit Vela in the morning time, before sleeping, and also every hour for 1 minute, to just be in remembrance of your God with mind and intellect, fully stable on that powerful thought with a total love, lagan mein milan, milan mein magan, total love for the God. And when you develop this practice, you get that ati indriya sukh, which we call over sensuous pleasure. Then you know that even if you are in the crowd, even if you are in social gathering, you can develop that love and enjoy over sensuous enjoyment. So solitude is a regular practice. And once you have that taste of that solitude, you will naturally love solitude all the time. Om Shanti.
Very nice. Thank you. So again, a regular practice and again, bringing the divine into that into that practice of solitude. Very nice. I think we have time for maybe one oral sharing before I go into the chat. There's some lovely points that are coming through the chat. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, while we're getting folks in, let me read a few of the points that we got on the chat. Brijbhai says, be in oneness, in silence, in peace, stable mind, in remembrance of the Supreme, forgetting self, deep dive, be in solitude. So just taking the time to deep dive. Deepak Bhai says, following traffic control of thoughts for 2 minutes every hour. So just pausing and checking your thoughts every 2 minutes. Shobha says, I need to learn to slow down consciously so that I'm in a relaxed state, and then I'm prepared to go within and connect with the Supreme and experience the peace within. So I think for me, the key word was learning to consciously slow down and be in that relaxed state as almost a preparation for going deeper. Balvinder says, I will follow traffic control consciously now. Never understood the importance behind it. I must slow down the craziness in my new learning. Very nice. I see a couple of comments in Portuguese. I don't know if Manuel brother could translate that into English for all of us to learn from that. Lara says, with discipline, every hour taking this break, anguishing ourselves not to hear the voices of ego when they say there is no time, but rather solitude is necessary. Persist. Oh, I like that word, persist. Don't listen to the voices of ego. Persist. Very nice. Thank you, Lara. Thank you, Manuel. Anybody else? If not, Deepak Bhai, we can go into your sharing of slides. Oh, I see one more hand up. So even as Deepak Bhai is bringing up the slides, Vinaya, if you want to quickly share what your comment is.
Yeah, I mean, what I experienced is how I practice solitude is having my morning walk, and as I started doing that, what I experienced is my need to talk with others, gradually reduced over the years. And now, if people want to connect to me, I very politely tell them, it's my me time and I would love to be with myself. And that gives a lot of satisfaction being with the divine. Thank you. Om
Very
Shanti.
nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So a lot of beautiful ideas. I won't read every single one of them. You will get the slides, but really at a high level, being in oneness, being in remembrance of the Supreme, forgetting self, lighting and solitude as a conscious activity every hour, disengage from the world, following traffic control of thoughts every 2 minutes, again, taking that pause and checking your thoughts every hour, need to consciously slow down and be in a relaxed state. People, we can go to the next slide. If there is one. Or, at this point in time, I think given the time on the clock, I will hand it back to you, Manoj Bhai, to take us forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepak Bhai and Shruti sister. Wonderful sharing is all about solitude. It's been 45 minutes. We have been talking a lot about solitude, practicing only maybe a few minutes. Well, that's the way our workshops are designed. So no regrets about that. And we have a speaker with us also in the background who's patiently observing all of us what we are doing, so that she'll be able to tell us what we need to work on to develop solitude, because that's the beauty of these workshops. The senior Rajyogis, from their such a broad experience which they have of spirituality of almost 35, 40 years, are able to give us a peek into how to develop or inculcate that value. Yeah, and before I start sharing what Sister Jayanti had spoken last weekend, if I can just request the ones who have joined new to please share your emails and WhatsApp numbers so that we can send you all the materials. Yeah, so let me just go further into what Jayanti Didi had to say. So, yeah. I mean, looking at Didi's face, you can say she has really practiced a lot of solitude, because the face is the index of the mind. All of us know that. So all of us have spoken a lot about those Hindi words, and I would like to touch upon, which Didi also covered, these 4 or 5 words in Hindi, beautiful words, all starting with ek. Ek means one. So ekant is solitude, which we translate in English, but the technical translation actually is going in the depths of one. And then depth, as beautifully shared by Vijay Bhai, that you can only go in the depth of the one supreme if you have love for him. Once you start practicing solitude, Didi further mentioned that you go into the depths of concentration, ekagrata. Ek, again one, agra. Agra actually means to request. So when I request my mind and intellect both to be really sort of in unison with each other, that's called concentration. And once we are able to do both these, then we can develop ekta, which is unity. And then there will be a lot of harmony between our sanskars. We don't really need to then think to cooperate with someone or not. Harmony just becomes natural. And with this, we also develop something called ekrasthiti, which means my state of mind becomes very, very stable, because I know I am not getting disturbed by anyone's sanskars. Everyone is playing their own part. So I am in harmony and I am very, very stable. And with this also, there's another thing which comes, which again starts with ek, but it's economy, which means my thoughts start slowing down and I really start economizing on my thoughts. And here Didi mentioned that the baggage which we carry with us, it's all a waste baggage which we have. And that is what doesn't allow us to go in our inner world. So if we can have ekagrata, concentration, then we can really easily develop solitude, be in harmony and unity, ekta, and also have a stable state of mind. And what is possible only with solitude? These 4 things, which Didi was very clear about: cleansing, clearing, recharging, and refilling. So all sorts of processes which help you in meditation. We do this all so as to clear the clutter inside. So what to do when I have to go within? First question, ask yourself, is this what I want to do now? Which means carry on the big baggage, the waste which I have. Not really, I don't like that. And as we had discussed, that solitude is not running away from people to spend time, because actually that is in one way an excuse. I want to practice solitude, but actually I want to just run away from them. That is not true solitude. And also second is, Didi said, not to reject anyone's company because I don't like their company, which is again not being truly soul conscious. So solitude, as all of you all have pointed out very rightly about traffic control, so it can be practiced in minutes between whatever task we are doing. And we have this beautiful tradition here of what we call traffic control practice, whereby we stop the traffic inside what is going on. And practicing solitude, Didi mentioned, is essential for being soul conscious. So if I really want to taste that flavor of soul conscious, I need to start practicing solitude. And it's only through solitude that we can transform. And as I said in the start of the workshop today, is this Makar Sankranti, the day of transformation, Parivartan in Hindi. It's a beautiful day to start and dive into the depths of how solitude can lead to self-transformation. And yes, to start with, we need to avoid external distractions. Yes, that helps, that if you're physically away from people, it helps. But as you become an experienced Rajyogi, an experienced meditator for that matter, these things don't really matter. Being in and around with people, you can still be in nice solitude of your communion with the divine. Yes, a few questions to ask myself in this age and century of media and technology. Are we allowing technology to be a distraction? If yes, we need to fix that time of digital detox. Are we spending additional time doing unnecessary tasks apart from the necessary work? And Didi clearly brought this out, that when we go on the internet, maybe for some work, we really have some important work to do. But after doing that work, I just slip into some other channel, other app, and we don't know how 15 minutes, 1 hour goes off. That's the third thing. Where is my time really going? And most important, contentment. That's the fourth point. That is my consciousness content, and is my conscience clear? Because if my mind is clean and my intellect is actually clear, the connection will be very fast. And then solitude, introversion, soul consciousness, all that will become a very easy thing for me. And Didi said, inner solitude makes me self-aware and also allows me to move forward again for the transformation which I have. And again, strictly, if you want to develop the relationship with God, there is no other way than soul consciousness, because God is that divine energy which doesn't have a body. And God doesn't really like ourselves to consider us as being bodies. We are not bodies. We are those beautiful souls, energies. So the relationship with the self, with God, and even drama, that is whatever is happening in my life and others, all depends on how much solitude I can practice. And we have covered a few values in the past about detachment. Again, detachment in the proper way, detachment from my consciousness of being a body, that detachment, not being detached from people, because that's what we feel solitude is. So actually solitude is wherever you are, just in one thought, detach yourself from the consciousness of being this body. And then connection with the divine will be faster. And that's what Didi said. The quote is, if my life and conscience are aligned together, then my self-esteem begins to grow, and it reaches a point where the soul feels content. Contentment, I still remember, was one of the first values which we had started our workshop with. We must say it's the mother of all values. It's a beautiful value. I'll take a few questions in the next 5 minutes. I took a quote from one of the books that loneliness is being alone, and it is like cursing being alone, but solitude is the glory of being alone. So how is it a glory actually? So Didi said, if you look at the beauty of the self, that how virtuous you are, how powerful or empowered you are, and everything that spiritual knowledge has taught me, when you look at that, then we start to really look at the beauty which we have within. The beauty is all of our inner virtues and powers. Appreciating the gifts that God has given me and the values that I carry within myself. A practical question which even you all were facing to start with when we asked you all the first activity question was, what are the hindrances in developing or rather inculcating solitude? So that was the question. So again, solitude is not just being idle, doing nothing. You really have to set your stage, and that you can do by really, that's what Didi said. Start reading something spiritual. We have Murlis here at the Brahma Kumaris, which is our spiritual class daily in the morning. So start by doing that, or any other spiritual scripture of your choice. pick it up, read, and not just read like very fast. Read maybe just a sentence at one time and reflect on those words. Try to go in the depth of the meaning of that one particular sentence. And this way, when our mind really starts concentrating on one particular thing, our journey towards solitude can begin. Because again, ekagrata and ekanta closely linked. Concentration leads to solitude, and solitude also enhances concentration. Another question, a very practical, particularly related to patients from the, I must say, the ones who are depressed, who are psychotic, in the sense the state of mind is quite disturbed. They should not be allowed to be in solitude because that can really be a bit dangerous for them. They don't want to actually mingle with others. So particularly at some centers, they really have to get a certificate from the healthcare professional that your state of mind is normal. Because for Raj Yoga meditation, you really need to understand, as we discussed in the past as well, understanding is important. So solitude, not really for them. And meditation a bit later, once they are on medication, because medication will help them to internally take care of the hormonal imbalance which they have. And once physically the hormones are fine, then you can teach them meditation. So a big lesson to learn, that for depressed people, don't teach them meditation directly, and solitude never for them. As an extrovert person, because Didi said this, I remember very well, that she said that she internally was an introvert always, and naturally she had that. So as an extrovert person, when I'm exposed to so many people around me and I have this party sort of lifestyle, how can I practice this? A difficult value that way to practice. So Didi said, soul conscious is my original natural state. Whether I'm introvert or extrovert in this birth, it's my natural state. So I need to really start practicing on that. Another quote which I had asked is about Albert Einstein. He said that I live in the solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity. So all of us know the young generation really don't like to be in solitude. That's because Didi said the youth don't realize the value of that, which mature people do. But nowadays times have changed. There are some youth who may be interested in spirituality. A very common question which all of us have, early morning meditation, Amrit Vela, is a bit tough, challenging in this winter time particularly. So can I really do something else, like take help of meditation, music, songs, etc.? So yes, of course, we can do that to elevate our stage. And I'll take the last question in the interest of time, that what's the difference between, a very practical question one of the brothers had asked, difference between soul awareness and soul consciousness. So awareness simply means, yes, I know, but consciousness is going in the feeling level, where I really experience that consciousness of being a soul and operate from that state of being, which all of you have been sharing, that solitude is about an aspect of being, not the aspect of doing. So here we go. And we have with us, I'll stop sharing the screen. We have with us our very dear Sister Manda. Thank you, Sister Manda, who has joined all the way from UK. And all of us know her very well, but we have a few new participants as well, Didi. So I'll just introduce a little bit about you. Hope that's okay. So Sister Manda has been practicing this journey for almost 40 years now, I must say. And she spent her time in the UK coordinating the administrative activities there initially for the first 5 years, 87 to 93 at the GCH, Corporation House. And quite a few years, almost 20 years from 93 to 21, and still maybe going on as a director of Brahmakumari's GRC in Oxford. And what I like about Sister Manda is her clarity about everything. Whenever she speaks, it's very simple and lucid and very clear. So I'm sure whatever questions you have today about solitude will be clarified by her more in detail as well. So again, as always, a few more minutes before I pass it on to her, a small poem on her and solitude together this time. So Sister Manda, again, you can see her face has the natural ability to be in introversion, thereby helping all of us to discover a new version and keep away from the disturbing sense of extroversion, which we have been discussing. This indeed helps us to avoid all sorts of coercion, just as Maya is waiting to invade us by incursion. So let's keep it away, the Maya away, by dipping into spiritual immersion, because life has given many challenges, which are like mental exertion. But by connecting with the Supreme, life has taken a beautiful excursion. Are you ready for that? And now I can tell everyone from my experience with a lot of assertion that don't wait any longer and let the divine do the needed intervention. So with this, I would welcome Sister Manda. Thank you once again to find out time from your busy schedule for us. Thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai. Om Shanti, everyone. And yes, special greetings to everyone from here, from the UK. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. And in actual fact, we have a special event happening here today. And I've taken time from that. We have Brahma Kumari's UK teachers from all over the UK. And there are 85 of them. In fact, they're sitting with Sister Jayanti right now, while I'm sitting with all of you. But I have to say that every topic that you all explore, you exhaust it completely. And in the most positive way, of course, you explore it, you practice it, you go into the depths of it, you hear from each other, you also hear from senior yogis. And then when it comes at the end, when someone like me has to share, it makes me wonder, what is there left for me to say that's going to interest you or hold your attention, if you like. But I think that since I've been listening last hour when you've all been talking, my sense is that you know all the right things to do. You also know what it is that gets in the way of doing what we have to do. So one of the things that I feel that might help is to share my own experience and some of the things that I have learned to understand about life generally. And sometimes we can be hard on ourselves when we're on a journey, because we see something in a certain way, and then we want to go in that direction. There are other things that come along, sometimes from outside of ourselves, but actually my sense is mostly from inside of ourselves. And if there's anyone that can, should I say, manage those internal hindrances that come in the way, it's me. And I just have to learn to understand myself more. Something that I learned a while back, and in a sense I knew it, you know, you've been hearing about solitude and introversion and extroversion. You haven't spoken of introversion and extroversion so much. I think it came up once. But a few years ago, I was talking to someone and she recommended a book to me, which I bought. And there aren't many books that I read from cover to cover, but this one was very fascinating for me. And this book was called Quiet. The title of the book is Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And I was fascinated by this because actually by nature, I am an extrovert. And my understanding of extroverts was that it's not good because You're talking all the time, you're expressive, you're loud, you're fast, all of this. But actually, as I began to understand more, I began to do some exercises that were part of this book called Quiet. And I began to realize that both of these are parts of me, the introvert and extrovert. Yes, there are times extroversion is a very prominent part of me. And the extroversion, the quality of extroverts is that they are good at picking up information from outside of themselves, that they are, they have the need to connect to people, and they begin to process information and understand things by taking information from outside of themselves, which could mean what they see, what they smell, what they feel, what they touch outside, what the energy they pick up, all of that, but also through a lot of talking. I know that for my own self also, I think on my feet. So which means that you put me in a tricky situation and I'm good at getting myself out of there because I think on my feet and I'm fast at thinking. Whereas, and also extroverts are very fast, speedy. In contrast to that, introverts are people that are very quiet. They need to spend time by themselves. It comes naturally for them to spend time by themselves. It's easy for them. They process their thinking. They're not so quick at responding. And what Susan Cain, the author of this book that I'm telling you about, was saying was that actually this is the natural nature of all of us, ultimately. But it was in the early 20th century that extroversion became very fashionable and popular and taught specifically even at Harvard University, which meant that people who can use PowerPoints and be methodical in their expression, they fast and they express themselves, are very impressive. They impress people. Whereas the introverts, they need time to process information. So if you ask them a question, they don't give you an answer very quickly. Whereas extroverts can do that very quickly. Now, why I'm telling you this is because I went on a little journey of exploration of my own self. Because as I said, I'm an extrovert by nature, which means being in solitude or being introvert was a big test for me. There was a part of me that was attracted to that, drawn to that, and I wanted it, but action, interaction, doing, making things happen, holding big projects, multitasking, all of this was my specialty. I could do it so easily. And you know what they say, that if you want something done, ask a busy person. So when you are capable of doing that, more and more comes to you. And so what happens as a result of that, that becomes our drive. We can find 1,000 reasons why we can justify ourselves and say, well, I enjoy it, I'm good at it, people ask me to do it, and I can produce results. And so what can I do? All of that completely and utterly true. And yet what I found some years ago, that while I was doing all of this, my internal state, I'm a yogi, I'm a meditator, and even at that time, I'd been meditating for 30 odd years, but still there was a part of me that was extremely thirsty for something. It was thirsty for this kind of experience, this experience of being in solitude. enjoying my own company, not feeling the need to constantly be engaged or feeling that I've got to respond to situations and circumstances very fast. So then I began a journey for myself. Having said that, I'm still an extrovert by nature, but I have started to carve out time. A good friend of mine was saying, he lives on his own, BK, he lives on his own completely, and I live in a community with lots of people and active and busy, whereas he's a writer, so he's by himself, he's thinking a lot, he spends time on his own mostly. So he said to me, Manda, you need to do what I do, and I need to do what you do. And not that he said, I'm willing to do what you do, but if you did what I did, then you would make big discoveries about yourself. And he would say to me, just sit on the sofa, lie on the sofa and stare at the ceiling. Watch how long you can do that for. And I have to say, I have tried and I have practiced in order to build up my own, not just a practice, my own desire to be in solitude. And why is it that I want to? I'm not going to the definitions of solitude and any of that, because you've had so many definitions, some amazing definitions and amazing explanations. So I don't want to go into that. And what I started to discover was that every time I was in solitude even, I would always find something to do. There was always something to do. If something, even if it was the laundry that needed to be done, I had to get that out the way. I'd see a little bit of dirt and I need to clean that. Or all the stuff that had been left undone would come to the surface. So why I'm sharing this is because we can find 1,000 reasons. Or your phone sits next to you, and what do? The first thing you do the moment you've got time free is reach for your phone. And you reach for your phone for this stimulus, this natural form of stimulus, if you like, which is draining you, which is also a form of company. And so I feel that it is essential on a daily basis to carve out time to be in your own company. Most people are afraid to be in their own company because in their own company, they will find things that they don't like about themselves. Or they will find things that will make them see that I need to do something about this. There are so many different ways in which we stay in company. One, when I say to stay in my own company, I don't mean that I want to stay in the company of Manda. I want to stay in the company of this subtle, spiritual, conscious thinking energy that I know I am. When I am in that awareness, I'm not Manda. Manda has a personality. She thinks in a certain way. She behaves in a certain way. She has certain likes and she has certain dislikes. She has preferences. All of this is an intrusion. My personality, which is an acquired self, is an intrusion in me being with my own self. So first and foremost, if you want to be able to be in solitude, define solitude for yourself, not what you've been hearing last week, this week, or what everybody else has been saying. You have to define solitude for your own self by understanding some spiritual truths which you've been hearing about. So for me, to be in solitude is to be in my own company, in the awareness of myself as a spiritual being, conscient, living, thinking, pure energy. This is who I am. That's an understanding as a first step. And after that understanding, there has to be the practice of it. Practice, and as I continue to practice, I begin to be comfortable and recognize the incredible beauty that lies within that state of being. An incredible beauty. And as I begin to appreciate and enjoy and recognize its value for my own self, which is the single most important thing, then I want to stay in that place. I want to stay, I want to savor that experience. And so when I want to savor that experience, I reach into that experience again and again and again. And what I begin to do as I build that experience, I begin to recognize the separation between myself and what's outside of me. Recently, I've had an interesting experience in that I had eye surgery a couple of years ago, and it's removal of cataract. And nowadays they put these sophisticated, incredible lenses that basically free you from glasses for the rest of your life. So that's, you know, the near vision and far vision. So I have these lenses. And one day, in fact, I was in Australia at the time, and I'm just hanging my washing out. And as I'm hanging my washing out, and my washing was just this, everything was white. And suddenly I can see that it's as if I'm looking through a screen of some kind. It was a very soft, subtle screen. And I realized it was something to do with these new lenses that are in my eyes. And everything felt beyond, outside of that screen, felt translucent, but it was like I was looking through something, a window of something else. And so I'm kind of relating that to this practice of this awareness of myself as this incredible, subtle, spiritual energy. And that everything that is not that is separate from me. It's a practice that I have to have. I have to sit and sit and sit and sit some more to get to grips with that experience, that I begin to basically feel incredible energy from that. And that energy you can define as whatever you want. You can define as concentration. You can define as contentment. You can define as power. You can define it as all of those things. You can define it as a power of a decisiveness or discernment. All of those things. But those labelings can be applicable in certain spaces and in certain times, which then comes naturally when I'm able to stay in this state. You know, if I think about concentration, then suddenly we start to go, okay, I got to sit still, I got to be quiet, I got to really focus, I've got to think about one thing. And it becomes a heady exercise, an intellectual exercise. For me, what's become important is that I have to take it away from an intellectual practice. The practice has to be that whole of my being is engaged. My mind, my heart, my body, everything is engaged. Everything is in a state of alignment. It's not just my head that's thinking, well, let's do this, and then that, and then that. When I do this, that happens. When I do that, then that happens. It becomes a heady exercise. You know what the definition of meditation? I heard a while back, actually, and I'd forgotten it, and I heard it yesterday again. Meditation is a state of being in which you're beyond your intellect. So you're not rationalizing your experience, you're not analyzing your experience, you're not labeling your experience, you are just in a state. And as you do this, the greater the awareness of my own self, the greater this recognition of my state of solitude. Anything else that comes that is not that, or anything else that takes me away from that, is an intrusion, is an interference. And it only happens when I give it permission. Nobody gets inside my head. They don't force themselves inside my head, or even in my heart for that matter. I put them there. And then I say, they are there and I can't get them out. And the other thing that I feel that happens, it's only when I create this internal world of myself. It is then that I can build a relationship with things outside of me. Otherwise, it's not possible to build a relationship. I can absolutely say with guarantee that none of us have a relationship with anything. We all have subservience or dependency, even with our own body. Even with my own body, I need to learn to have a relationship. When you have a relationship with someone, what happens? You communicate, you listen, you talk, and therefore you understand. And you comply on the basis of what you understand, right? So let's just take the example of your own body. When I have a relationship, when I am able to internally create that space for myself, then I can listen to my body. What does it need? What is it asking me for? So it's not that I'm listening to the body first, but I'm being in solitude first. I'm becoming clean of all the filters that I use in my life on a daily basis. Preferences, likes, dislikes, as I said, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, right, wrong, all of these filters that do not allow me to experience the beauty and the truth of myself at all. I remember last year, actually, around this time, I was with someone and this person said to me, we were talking about something, it was a group of us, and he said, and I was struck by it. He said, you know, I don't have to have an opinion about everything. Simple, young man. I don't have to have an opinion about everything. So simple. Can you imagine yourself being free from opinions? When you are, you can be in solitude. So it's only when I create this kind of, a pure and a clean space inside myself, then I can really, truly connect with God. Do you think God has likes and dislikes? Do you think God has preferences? Do you think God gets distracted like that with something else that's happening over here when actually he's focused on attention over there? Don't think so. If you and when you're in the presence of God, what would there be? What would there be present? Absolute and complete presence. Holding of space only because God is so inside of himself. He's not preoccupied by what's going on, who's doing what, why are they doing that, and why aren't they doing that, even though he knows exactly what is right and what is not right. Does God, do you think, ever get preoccupied by that? Right, wrong, good, bad? Completely. I have the experience of being in the company of God. God knows exactly what is. So on the one hand, would you say God practices solitude? Or he is solitude? Because God's world is so complete, so filled with deep and profound silence that never comes outside of himself. Never comes outside of himself. So for me, to be in solitude is to never come outside of yourself. And that doesn't mean that you're walking around with your eyes closed and insular. Doesn't mean that at all. It means that you see everything outside of yourself. You know exactly what's going on. You know that God knows exactly what's going on. And yet, it doesn't become part of it. I remember Daddy Janki, when you spoke to her about something, anything, if there was a situation that was on your mind, she would listen and she would be present. And you also felt her inside herself. And if there was something she could do about it, like, okay, speak to this one or do that or move this from there, that to there to here, she would do it. But if there was nothing she could do physically, inside, even though she was inside herself, in a sense, in solitude, but you felt like she was doing something about it. In the sense that she was creating some positive thoughts and feelings and energy or whatever. That was going to influence. That was going to help sort the situation out. So why I'm saying that is because solitude, we have some sort of misconception about what it is. as if you are cutting yourself off from the world, and therefore you can't do everything that you normally do. That's not the case. You can do everything that you can do, that you do, but yet you're inside yourself. And this can only happen, though, that when you have the practice, and we have the practice. For us, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning are the time to practice solitude. You can't do it at other times in that way. But you can between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. So often we get asked this question, don't we? Why do you meditate at 4 o'clock in the morning? Nobody's going to ring your phone. There's no shops to go to. Well, nowadays there's internet, of course, but you can always switch that off. But there is nothing to do at 4 o'clock in the morning. There are lots of other deeper spiritual reasons as well. But otherwise, there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nobody's waiting for you anywhere. It's the ultimate time to practice solitude. The ultimate time to be in your own company. The ultimate time to be in the company of God. And you've heard the definitions of going into the depth of one. And that could be anything. It could be the depth of yourself. It could be the depth of God, or sometimes a situation or a task requires your focused attention. And even when you do that, it's a form of solitude, really. I remember some time back we had an event here with Dadi and the top neuroscientists of the country. And it was the first time that, for us as the BKs, such a prominent scientist was going to be in a conversation with a spiritual person like Dadi Janki. So we would be, we were putting Dadi through the scenario she wanted to. We were putting her through the scenarios of practicing, talking to a non-BK, talking to a scientist, different kinds of scientists, so she would get the hang of it. And I remember one particular scientist coming along and saying, or Dadi, I think, saying that spirituality, the practice of spirituality, is also a form of science. Because just as scientists will give focused attention to something, scientists will go into the depth, they go down in the cellars, into their research laboratory, and they're there. Scientists will do something for hours on end without becoming distracted by anything else, because they're so absorbed in what they're doing, except that they're just doing something physical. Whereas we are doing that. He said, I'm also a scientist. I'm a spiritual scientist. I too go into a world like that. But the other quality about scientists is that a true scientist will always be open to more, always be open to a different outcome, a different result. Because scientists are researchers. And we are the same. We, the spiritual people, are a form of scientists. That we do this internal, inner exploration about ourselves. But the other thing I also wanted to emphasize was that this aspect that I mentioned about introvert and extrovert, we are what we are. I'm an extrovert, and I can't completely be an introvert. I know that there is an introvert side of me, side to me. I just need to bring it up more and more, encourage it. And so I'm also now, for Manoj Bhai mentioned about the Global Retreat Center, and it's true, for 25 years, I oversaw it, managed it, and we did incredible things. And then I had to come to a point where I had to say, actually, I think this task has to be shared with other people, and it's too much for one person. I too need to draw the line, because I too need to take myself into that deeper awareness of myself. And I need, sometimes if I'm constantly engaged in doing and in being at the forefront of everything, I can't, I at least sometime I need to take where I can separate myself from the things that I need to do and the things that I don't need to do. And I have this incredible over-exaggerated sense of responsibility and wanting to do everything in a certain way. We all like that, right? Controlling, wanting things in a certain way. And so you have to separate yourself. If you want to introduce greater solitude, you have to step back. Have to step back. Anything, any reason that one gives about devices or family or children, all of that is ultimately my own excuses. So I'll stop here to invite any thoughts or comments that you might have, and then we can see what we want to do.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. We'll take a few questions. If you all can start sending me your questions. Usually in the workshop, people don't ask a lot of questions, but I had a few questions from the last talk, which I wasn't able to ask Jayanti Didi. So I'll just ask you if that's okay. That it is mentioned that solitary trees, if they grow at all, grow strong. So is it something related to us as well?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's entirely related to us as well. We are creatures of connection as human beings. No man is an island. We belong to each other and we belong to no one. So in a sense, I feel though that human spirit needs companionship and other relationships. So I don't think that, but you can build your internal strength and your roots very strong inside yourself, and then you can come out and reach out to other people. So I don't think it's about completely being in solitude or being solitary myself. And because other people help us to bring the best out of us, and we help other people bring the best out of them. So I feel as human beings, we need connection. So yeah, I take time, as I said, to strengthen myself and to create that inner world. But then we also need each other. We need connection. But it's how we connect is the big issue.
Sure. So another thing is said that only mindful people can enjoy the blissfulness of solitude. Mindful people.
Okay, I wouldn't say only mindful. I would say mindful people enjoy blissful solitude, but then we can all be mindful. If you position it like that, only mindful, then somebody would say, well, I'm not mindful, so I can't do it. It's not that. Mindful people generally, which we can all be mindful, and we can all enjoy solitude. Mindful simply just means attentive. Mindful simply means aware. Mindful means to be considerate and approaching and relating, and not be like a bull in a Chinatown, as the expression goes.
Okay, so a question is coming here that how do I let go of people's behaviors? Because when I'm in solitude, I keep thinking about them, what they have done with me.
Well, this is where we have knowledge and understanding, and that is that everybody is what they are. I cannot do anything about that. And how does it help to think about them at any time, let alone in my solitude time or meditation time? How does it help to do anything about when somebody is in a certain way? They are what they are, and I cannot do anything about it. I can, but first I have to make peace with who they are and what they are. And I can do something about it more through being accepting and loving and appreciating and all of that. I can make peace with that person, and then I can help them change. But if I'm reacting, I'm rejecting, then I can't help them, and nor do I help myself. So for my own sanity, I have to they are what they are. Can I just accept them? Can I see another side of them that is beautiful and powerful and special?
True. There's another practical question, like the brother is saying, I have come into knowledge in 2021 during the COVID time there are many Zoom babies. All of us know that now. Children of come to knowledge through Zoom. He says, I like the solitude of Zoom and listen to the Murli classes on Zoom, but I find it apprehensive to go to the local center. So, can you help me with what should I do? Should I enjoy my solitude?
Well, listening to Murli, going to the center, that's a different experience in itself. There are other ways to get solitude, but going to the local center where the atmosphere is spiritual, going away from all the things that you're bogged down with in terms of your household, in terms of the energy at home, to lift yourself out of that and go somewhere else, can really truly give a vision of the self. But also at the same time, I can actually enjoy the atmosphere. I can enjoy the spiritual energy that exists in a place, because the soul is here at the center of the forehead, and the soul is a subtle being, but the soul also absorbs energy through the physical, and that is through the body. And so going to the center, listening to the Murli in company of other people, that's a different experience. That's a totally different experience. Dadi Janki used to say, meditating by yourself is a very important thing to do. Meditating with a small group of people is a very special thing to do. That has a different experience. Meditating with a large group of people is also a different experience, but also valuable experience. When I was sharing with you earlier on about having this experience of the self as this just thinking, living, conscient energy, I had that incredible experience last weekend here. We had a retreat and we had 50 people in the retreat, 55 people in the retreat, and there were 25 others. We had 75 people in the room meditating. There was no effort. It was like you were instantly absorbed in yourself. And so I think the apprehension only is because you haven't tried it, but try it and recognize its power.
Sure, great. I'll just take this last question, a very interesting question, slightly lengthy. I'll squeeze it out for you. That the sister is saying introversion and being in solitude makes us less reactive. and responding to external talks and people's judgments. But this brings an effect on me as I'm accepting all their comments, even if they are not right. So her question is it that I should not keep reacting and simply ignore them? How can I help myself here?
Well, I thought you said that being introvert and all of that is makes you respond as opposed to react. So I think suppressing is not the answer. I think that if people are doing things that don't work for you, you have to put it in a place, in the sense that understand, as we said earlier on, people will do what they do. You have no idea why they do what they do, or their personality that they have, or how they behave. All of that has a root and somewhere in somehow. So I just have to, it's not that I suppress my own feeling. And if somebody's doing something that doesn't work for me, can I actually go to them and say, and approach it in the way that saying, you know what, I appreciate what you're saying. However, this is what it made me feel, and it didn't feel comfortable to me. So I think it's trying to understand people where they're coming from, instead of just suppressing your own reactions and then saying I'm being introvert. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for all your answers. And we have our seniors with us. We don't have Dr. Mehta today because you'd be knowing that we have this Rejuvenating Medical Minds conference next Sunday in Mumbai. So he's extremely busy with organizing that because he's the main organizer there. And I would request now Sister Claudia to please propose the vote of thanks. Yeah, over to you.
Om Shanti. It's very nice to see you, Manda. You close the cycle. We talk about with Sister Janti that was a very introverted and come to you extroverted. And we know you how that you are extroverted, and also Hema, your sister too. So, but anyway, it's very nice to see you show someone who is extroverted talk about introversion. So you give a very practical a way how to be introverted but be extroverted. So thank you very much. It was very nice. Actually, it was really, because you have said everybody talk about everything, but you talk at a very good point, which is practical in life. So I always miss the time that I spend. I went only one time that I spent like 1 week in Oxford at the retreat center. I never forget, was a time to be really, like you said, to be in that company and being introverted and go deep inside.
Come again. Come again.
Yeah, that's what I want to go there sometime. Yeah.
On your way to Madhuban.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
So let me just quickly do the announcements and then we'll go in the meditation mode. And Anu sister, you can be ready with the photograph to take that. Yeah. So as all of you know, it's the January month and we are covering these very subtle values which help us go inside and practice our stage towards perfection. So next in line is being essenseful, which also is an important value, helping us to go more inside and be more silent. It's the next Saturday, and as always, the time is 8:30 for India. And we have Sister Denise Lawrence, another eloquent speaker. She'll be joining from France, like her base now is moved to France. And after that, as always, the workshop a week after that will be again with another sister from UK, Sister Gopi. So we have the last 3-4 speakers all from UK. Sister Denise as well is from the UK. So we'll be sending you all these details. And yeah, people are asking for the YouTube links. Yeah, we all have these workshops recorded. We'll share, I'll just share actually with you right away. And we are doing 2 silence retreats. We have done one on solitude, and the next after the talk and workshop on Essenseful will be the silence retreat on Sunday. That is the last Sunday of the month. And this is our elegant calendar. We'll be sending it to you in the review materials as well. And if you can just note down, I think Sister Manjeet who was asking, these are our links. They'll be coming to you in the emails as well. but the workshops are on omshanti.tk/workshops. And the episodes are on omshanti.tk/playlist/English. And the other languages as well, if you want, you can write down accordingly. So I'll just stop sharing here. And over to you, Sister Anu, for the quick photograph, and then let us all be in the meditation mode. Do you want to do a commentary or just a music drishti?
Whatever you prefer, whatever you normally do, whatever is fine.
Okay, whatever suits you, that's fine with us as well. So anyway, so we'll see. We'll play some music as well, so that you can tell us some guided commentary. Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking photo now.
Yeah, sure.
More people, you can start your video if you want. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, commentary will be great. Thank you, Sister Manda.
Okay.
Thank you, Sister Anu. So we'll all be in the meditation mode with Sister Manda. Over to you. Thanks.
Om Shanti. Sitting comfortably and quiet and relaxed. Allow yourself to just observe your thoughts. And instead of thoughts coming in and out without you directing them, choose your thoughts. First and foremost, directing your thoughts by paying attention to your breath. Noticing breath coming in and out of your body, rise and fall of your belly and your chest. And as you do this, there is automatic and natural sense of you being an observer of your own inner state. Notice how your body is so quiet. It's an incredible machinery that is working. You don't even realize it. But it's the breath, the oxygen that gives life to your body. It's this living, thinking, conscient energy of the soul that gives life to the breath. Become aware of this inner world inside yourself, of this deep inner peaceful being, this conscient thinking, loving energy of peace, separate from anything else that you might think you are. You are just this. Peace. And as you hold yourself in this space, recognize who you are, separate from the physical body, the physical world. I am the one who gives life. I am this beautiful, soft, gentle presence, presence of peace, presence of love, presence of beauty. And it is in this space, or from this place, that I relate to the world outside of me. I don't relate to the world to take something from it, but I relate to it to give to it. A soft, gentle world is who I am. In this pure, unconditional space, I can bring the presence of God. Presence that holds me and draws me to itself, but also draws me to myself. And together we form a world, this inner world, gentle, loving presence. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Sister Manda, for the excellent commentary and the experience, and also your presence as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Shanti.